It's a 93 Explorer. So we talked about this a little bit. Originally came to us, we were going to do a TTB swap, TTB extended beams on it, Dana 44 conversion, and you know, back half it, link it. Plans slowly changed as we started getting into the build, and I'm talking to the owner and what he wanted to do with it. So we decided to go with this will be our 3rd gen center mount. So the 1st gen is the one that's on my truck, the F-150. The 2nd gen is on, we built it for a buddy of ours, Josh Fredericks. He has since sold it to Eric, SoCal Suspension King. So that's our 2nd gen. And then this one, our 3rd gen, is actually a narrower version for like a mid-size truck. So rather than being 91 inches wide like the old center mount, which is one we're currently putting on Luana's old GMC that we sold, this one is more like a mid-size. So it's narrower, can still run the big tires, our hubs, all that stuff. So we're also running our hubs front and rear on it. The front are 2.5 inch hubs, and then the rear are going to be 3 1/4 with a cambered 4 inch housing. So we're running, this box is done by a buddy of mine, Minhworx. He's in Arizona. He does pretty much all our steering boxes. He gets them to us quick. They work great. I have his box on my truck. We run 40s on it with no issues. We're going to be running a Howe power steering pump on this one, and then we're going to be running a Howe 2 inch, 4.5 inch travel ram on it. So that's something I got to work on still. We're getting it mounted. It goes right here, and then it's got another plate that captures both of them that double shears everything. So that'll be on there. That gives it a lot of extra, it makes the steering a lot easier running a ram on it. So motor's all mounted. We have the motor plate mounted with a couple of custom tabs that we machined to mount the motor mount. The mid plate, I guess you would call it. So if you look at those they actually locate the mid plate, and they're threaded to where, you know, everything locates, makes it easy. So that's all done. The transmission mount's done as well, except for we're gonna make this cross member removable right here just to make it easier to get the transmission out. Right now you would have to pull the transmission out the side. We're actually going to make it to where, you know, these are custom mounts we machined recently. So what they're gonna do is this tube right here, we'll actually cut it, and then we'll weld it in here. This will weld to the side of the frame. The inside, right? Yeah, it'll be on this side right here. And I designed them with these little sides to where they'll actually self-locate as soon as you put them all the way up. So if you put a jack on the trans cross member, jack it up, these will self-locate. You just put the bolts in and you're done. Back here, we're gonna use something a little more standard. We're gonna use this half tube clamp to make it easy to move back here. Being that this is a long tube, you get some flex in it, and it just makes it easier to use something like this rather than going something super rigid. These are strong. I've used them on trans mounts before. They're real easy to locate. So he just brought us a mock-up transmission because he's currently having his transmission built right now. So we're going to be able to mock it up, finish all the sheet metal out. We're going to do custom headers on this thing, all 304 stainless custom headers. And we're going to actually bring them under the transmission pan over to this side. We're going to try to keep all the exhaust on this side, and then all the brake lines, wiring, any plumbing, we're going to keep it on the opposite side of the exhaust. I'm a big fan to keep any plumbing, anything flammable away from the exhaust as much as we can. That way you don't have any issues down the road. We're actually going to put it in an encased sheet metal, like a channel on that side as well, just to keep everything nice and clean, easy to work on. I think we're going to run a CBR radiator on it, as well as a CBR trans cooler.
Up front?
Up front, yeah. So everything will be located up front. So he's gonna run, McQueen's actually making him a custom hood for this thing to where it's actually we're gonna stretch the front end forward to clear, you know, big 30s. We're gonna put 37-inch tires on this thing, but I'm gonna make it to where 40s will clear. So if he ever wants to run 40s on it, he can. Also with the radiator, we're gonna stretch the front end forward a little bit just to make sure everything clears and everything's in its place and where it needs to be. When you're building a full tube chassis, you start running out of room real quick, especially in an Explorer. So we had talked about that as well, and then we'll kind of talk about the inside a little bit too. We opted to do, you know, a full plate, like integrated shock tower into the link pockets. A big concern with him is he's gonna have his family. This is gonna be a family pre-runner. To go play in the desert, go fast, do whatever you want to do. But we decided to do this plate structure to make it easy to get out of. So by doing this, you know, we don't have to do a lot of, you know, triangle bracings where you're going to hit your head when you get out in and out of the truck. We are going to do a full B-pillar as well as door bars. And then we're going to run a bench bucket back here as well. So I'm going to get this all sheet metaled in. We're going to design it to where he can upgrade to bigger shocks. Right now he's running a 2530 combo on the whole truck. He's running Radflos. And then eventually he's going to see if Radflo can make him like a 4.0 or 375 bypass. I guess they make 3.5s or 3.75s right now, I guess. And then, you know, like I said, we're running a 4-inch camber housing with our hubs. We're going to go 40 spline for now, as well as a 10-inch ring gear third member. And we're going to do a custom fuel cell in the back. We're going to shoot for around 50 gallons of fuel in the back is the plan. Because he wants to be able to take this thing to Mexico, run a lot of miles and not have to worry about it. So, and then the transmission is going to be a 4L80E, fully built roller, you know, all the bells and whistles. So we're going to do a full aluminum skid plate on it. We're going to do 3 pieces for the skid plate so that you can keep these side ones on. If you have to drop the trans or work on the trans, you can drop that center skid plate and it'll just make it easy to work on. We're going to do custom seat sliders. I've designed custom seat sliders in the past, so we're going to get those machined up and made and get those all done. They'll have a pull pin, but we're gonna make it to where it has a cable with a pull pin, so you don't have to reach underneath the seat. You can go to the center console, pull a little pin, and it'll actually actuate the seat, so it'll be nice. We were gonna do electronic actuators on it, but we're not gonna do that just because we just didn't feel comfortable doing them. I know there's a few out there. Heard good and bad about them, but until I can design something that's fail-safe to where it has a locking pin and you're not just relying on the actuator, we decided to opt out and not do that. But other than that, we're hoping to have it painted, and in the next few months we'll have the chassis done, all the sheet metal done, and he's going to take it, get it sandblasted, still it the whole chassis, bring it back to us. We're going to put the cab on it, sheet metal the cab in, and then after that it'll get final plumbing, final wiring. I believe he's going to do the wiring himself. We're going to plumb it. So we'll plumb all the brakes, all the transmission lines, all the cooling, anything like that. We are doing custom AC in this one. We're using one AC system. He is actually an AC tech, so he's done all the math and found us a system that's actually going to do almost 3 tons of AC. So it should cool this thing perfect. And we're going to do, the box that the AC came in, we're not going to use it. We're going to make a full custom sheet metal box. So yeah, that should be nice. It's going to be kind of trick. So right here, we're going to actually, the squirrel cage motors will be right here. They're going to go through a duct that's going to be all insulated, and then the whole AC system is going to be mounted in this area. So that's why we're doing a full custom setup. It should work really good. We're going to use the same AC system on the GMC that we're building right now as well with the center mount. And we're gonna do a trick AC compressor mount that's actually gonna mount underneath the motor. So that should be pretty cool. We'll do a video once we get the AC mount, and we'll probably offer that mount. It's probably not a mount that would work on many situations, but for a center mount where you have a bulkhead and you have a lot of room under the motor, it works out perfect. So this is the housing we're running on the Explorer. We're running our billet mounts that have a custom relief in them to where you actually, all the load will be on the spacers versus being on the bolt. So it won't load the bolt as much and put it in shear. It'll mainly load the spacer, which actually slides into the Heim. So these are billet, all 4140 chromoly. The housing's all 4130, I believe. 3 1/4 snouts set up so we can run a 10-inch gear and everything. So the first pass is all done on the mounts. As soon as everything cools down, we'll run a second pass on them, and then we'll flip it over and do the upper mounts. So that's it for that. So we're running Wilwood Aero 6s on this, 6-piston calipers. We have this same caliper on our race truck, but ours has a thermal piston, so that's the only different. These are more of like a pre-runner / race caliper, where ours is more of like a full-on race caliper, but these are not that bad priced for what you get. They stop great. Yeah, they work super good. They're easy to mount with the adapter mount that you get right here, if you can see it right there. So this adapter mount makes the radial style mount real easy to mount. And like I said, they're a great caliper for what you get. They stop amazing. So we opted to go with a 6-piston caliper. We had Wilwood Super Lights, which are a great caliper, but the problem is we were having a lot of deflection because those caliper, for some reason, we were running 2 1/4 hubs, so that's a lot of the reason why too we were having issues, is the fact that, you know, we had a smaller diameter snout, the bearing size was smaller, so we were running 39s at the time, so you get a lot of tire deflection.
Because we didn't really notice it much when we were on 37s, huh?
Yeah, 37s we never noticed it, but when we went to 39s, we would get a lot of tire deflection, which would actually, you know, because the whole hub and the tire would actually move a little bit. So what it would do is it would push your pads back into the caliper. So when you'd go to hit the brakes, you would have that first pedal push, you would have almost no brakes. We were running 3-pound or 2-pound residual valves, which is pretty standard on a disc brake setup, and it was still pushing the pads. The masters
were right too.
Yeah, masters were right. Everything was right. We just, because of that small bearing, and being that it was a smaller diameter snout, the little bit of deflection we get would push the brake pads off the caliper or off the rotor, and then that first push and a half, 1.5 pushes, you would almost have no brakes. The first race we ever raced Prim, I basically had to use my foot to pull the pedal up, almost coming into corners. I'd have to start pumping the brakes to get ready for that corner. It was a nightmare. Good brakes actually make you faster because you can come into corners way hotter, and you can brake before the corner, set the truck, and rail your berms or whatever. So good brakes do help you be faster in a off-road application, in any application really. Other than that, that's kind of where we're at on this. There's going to be a lot of progress on this thing in the next couple months. So sheet metal is fairly quick. I like doing sheet metal, so it goes fairly quick. It's all the tubing and figuring everything out, you know. In this truck, there's just not a lot of room in the cab, so we're trying to fit anything and everything where we can and make sure it has a, you know, everything's in its home where it needs to be. And then other than that, that's kind of, you know, where we're at. Stay tuned for more updates on this, and as well as our other projects we got going. All right, take it easy, everybody.